So like all this shit, like I did like team record from last year, acquisitions and losses, and then for the Marlins, I was just like acquisitions, who cares? Losses at least 100.
They're almost.
Dude, the Marlins are like maybe a AAA team.
They're almost a joke.
Like the rotation that the Braves are gonna have in Gwinnett to start the season is
stupid.
It's literally gonna be a major league
it's stupid.
caliber rotation.
It's stupid.
To start the season.
They're gonna be able to pull those guys up when they want.
Yep.
They don't have to pull them up for the first week.
Yeah. I mean, like
they'll wait till they get past that Super 2 date.
Yeah.
So they got that extra year, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Well, they don't even really have that many guys that you know they can. I mean, like there's like Kyle Wright maybe might still be on that. Bryce Wilson maybe, but Tukey, who is like I think is like the best prospect they're gonna have down the season to start Gwinnett. He pitched too much last year.
You can start.
Testing 1, 2, 3. If I say anything during the show, I'll probably be about this volume, so you can raise me or lower me accordingly.
Okay.
Go Braves.
Good. Yep.
Testing 1, 2, 3. No cheering. Is that the?
Tukey's not starting in the majors?
Yeah.
Nah.
Why not?
I mean, it'll probably come up real fast, but I mean, they might. It depends on so Fulte's got something wrong with his elbow, so he was gonna be opening day.
Yeah, I saw that.
Fucking Julio Teheran might be the fucking opening day starter again.
Yeah, here we go.
Yeah.
Fortunately, their lineup they might cover it for a little bit.
Yeah, no, like I'm not. And as long as I don't know, Julio is so up and down. Like when he's good, he's good, but when he's bad, he'll 3 1/3 and give up 8 runs. Like he's one of those guys.
That's a big one.
Tula.
Come on, dude. Like,
I mean,
What did you say?
It's crazy.
I think it's crazy that like that was their justification. Is that? No, it's on Tulo.
Tulo.
I just think that
Yeah, this is not
Yankee Stadium. That guy might. I don't know, man.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But it's not 5 or 6 years ago.
That's what I'm saying.
Tulo,
because Tulo was that dude. He was that guy.
He used to be.
That's what I'm saying. Tulo.
Just gonna lower me or make me rise? Neither.
Maybe it's one of the ones that like it leans you back.
No, it says the up or down one. I think it might be messed up, or I maxed it out. Oh. We're good. My cousin's done called me twice, bro. I was doing this on all of my social medias at like 8 this morning.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that on Twitter.
And my cousin's called me twice. I was like, dude.
I was just messing with it. But...
Mm.
Oh, I forgot. Okay, yeah. That's better.
Is Mike good, Brad?
Yeah, Rick, is the mic good? On Caleb? Yes.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much.
And then when you get done with that, if you could just get the headroom down on 2, we'll be set.
Yeah.
Carson, your hair don't look that bad. Look at you.
Yeah, hey man.
You look all right, man.
You know, every once in a while. Comes together every once in a while.
That's funny.
Alright. I'll see it.
Well, I guess it's their call. Never mind.
I mean, I'm waiting on them. Like
I was just gonna say maybe 2's a little
Did you want me to
loose.
stay
Like
here
maybe
just
2
like
could tighten up some. But it's just
Yeah, but I don't know how. We got 4 people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
it's a director's call. So
2 minutes. 1 minute.
countdown?
Jesus.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
60 seconds.
I'm gonna check my phone right quick.
Yeah, I got time. I got time.
They're
Turn my phone.
That's funny.
Turn my sound down.
That's funny. I didn't even bring my phone in there. I left it in there. I was like, I don't even know if I
I
want to
think I lost my little piece of paper that I had. Dang it. Oh, it just had the divisions printed out on it. Probably set it down somewhere.
You're good here.
right.
We should have brought our laptops, man, so we could look professional too.
I mean,
Words, we're going live.
okay.
Can I get them out first? Like,
La 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 la.
We're
Freakity.
live now.
oh, we are.
Everyone got really quiet.
Countdown. Okay. All right. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4.
Welcome to No Cheering in the Press Box, the live edition. Carson Dockery, Cheeto Charles Bradley, the head coach of the Gastonia Grizzlies, joining us. We got Caleb in front of the camera. Caleb was really uncomfortable not being behind the monitor for this one. He was really, really nervous about this. We got Pete Hunt on the far end, guys, and this is going to be our Major League Baseball season preview. We're going to go over all the divisions, going to go over the acquisitions, your losses, going to pick division winners, going to pick a World Series matchup, and then we're going to pick a winner finally. And guys, let's start with the AL East, where you've got your defending champion Boston Red Sox coming off a 108-win season. I mean, they don't really go after anybody. You lose Joe Kelly. Well, they've said they're not going to re-sign Craig Kimbrell. Whether or not that comes to fruition, we don't know yet. But like I mentioned, you lose Joe Kelly. You re-sign Nathan Eovaldi and Steve Pearce, your World Series MVP. I mean, obviously the Red Sox, they didn't really need to go after anybody. They're still loaded. They're still young enough to where there's no real pressure. I mean, you're in win now mode, but it's not. You've got the pieces. I mean, they're obviously. They beat the 3 best teams in baseball on the way to their World Series. I mean, what do you guys make of the Red Sox going into the season?
You know.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Do you think they need Kimbrell?
I mean,
Yeah, I think they kind of do. Yeah, I think they kind of do.
really?
Yeah.
You know, he struggled at the end, and you know, you obviously had Eovaldi, who was the guy in the bullpen or starting at the end of the year, especially in the playoffs. But I don't know. I mean, that closer role isn't as sacred as it used to be. I feel like you don't need a closer. You need a guy who can get outs. Whether or not those are the last 3 outs, or I mean, you can play it by matchup. I mean, I feel like Alex Cora is a good enough manager to where he can figure these things out. I mean, you can play it matchup by matchup. I mean, you've obviously still got good arms, I feel like, in the bullpen, but you're going to miss Craig Kimbrell no matter what, you know.
Yeah, he's a really big arm, and that's why there's a couple teams that still want him. They're not willing to pay him yet.
Right.
But they will be. And so I just looked at a team like Boston, and I don't think they needed to make a whole lot of moves.
Yeah.
And that's kind of been the knock on Boston is, they didn't bring in arms. Well, they're already pretty loaded.
Yeah.
You know, you got Sale, you got Price, you got Porcello, you got, Eovaldi's your 4.
Yeah, exactly.
He throws 100. So they don't necessarily need that. That's the first thing. But we're in a day and age where bullpenning has been elevated now.
Right.
You know, the bullpen used to be kind of a thing where pitchers, they really wanted to start. But now if you're in the bullpen, I mean, you'll get more action than you ever thought.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't think they needed to make a whole lot of moves. I think they're just fine.
Yeah, why waste money? Why waste money when your team is stacked and you're going to be a perennial team all year? I mean, why add anything?
You've still got the AL MVP and Mookie Betts. You've got arguably the best defensive outfield in baseball. I mean, you could have 3 Gold Gloves in that outfield with Benintendi, Jackie Bradley Jr., and Mookie Betts.
Exactly. Yeah, that's big, man. The Red Sox, man. That's all you can say.
But
Man.
there's a target though. Every single game there's a big
yeah,
target.
I mean,
because teams are going to want to come after.
Think about what the Red Sox used to be. They used to be like the Cubs, like lovable losers. But now, obviously their rival is the Yankees. They've sort of turned into the Yankees a little bit.
Yeah.
Their big payroll. They're a place that it's a free agent destination now. I mean, they've got pieces all the time.
Yeah.
There's not any down years anymore for the Red Sox where you could get away with saying, "Oh, we're going to be good next year." Like you've created a fan base that wants winning so bad that you can't take years off anymore. I feel like.
And like you said earlier, Carson, they're in win now.
Yeah.
They're in win now every year now, and that's a positive. That's a good thing.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
And then plus, like you said, Coach, they're going to get teams' best shots, and that's what you want. That's what you want as a contending team. I want your best. every time that you get in between these lines, I want your absolute best.
No, and that's just, when they've kind of turned their franchise around over the last, 15 years, the level of expectation that they've kind of, elevated is World Series champion. They won't win it each and every year because it's very, very hard to do, but they should definitely contend every single season as long as they've got these guys that are under contract.
Right.
All right, moving from the Red Sox to the Yankees. Yankees were also a 100-win team, 162 last year. They pick up James Paxton in a trade. They pick up Troy Tulowitzki and DJ LeMahieu. You've got a former Colorado Rockies middle infield now with Tulo and LeMahieu, and you re-sign Zach Britton. You bring CC Sabathia back for one last year. You lose David Robinson, but I don't think if you're the Yankees, you're not worried about losing David Robinson. You've still got a great back end of the bullpen.
Yeah.
They've got 3 closers.
Yeah, they do.
Maybe 4. And so that kind of goes back, you don't just need one closer, right? They've got 4 of them. So they can bring in their bullpen in the 5th or 6th inning with a lead and win any game. So, there's one guy, though, in particular, I think Gary Sanchez is primed for a pretty big year.
Yeah.
He's a pretty good player. He's a pretty good stick behind the plate, but I think he's primed for a breakout season offensively.
I mean, I think, you talk about him, he's got protection. Anywhere you want to stick him in the lineup. Obviously, you've got Aaron Hicks is a guy I feel like who's offense. I mean, obviously the defense is there, but he's a guy who's come around on offense. You've got Aaron Judge. You've got Giancarlo Stanton. You've got, as you mentioned, Sanchez, who can also DH with Stanton. Luke Voigt is a guy who came on strong last year who has got massive power. I mean, the Yankees are a team, obviously that ballpark is very hitter-friendly. But at the same time, it's not that you have guys who can hit and are being helped out by the park. You've got great hitters in an already hitter-friendly ballpark.
Yeah, Tulowitzki coming in with that short porch, Pete, I think that's going to be scary.
Yeah, I'm telling you, just like we were just talking about Boston, the Yankees are right there. I mean, they are as close to Boston as they could possibly get.
You're going to get Didi Gregorius back.
Exactly.
In June, July.
Yeah, so I mean, they're loaded. They're loaded. Just this is going to be fun.
You look at both Boston, and the Yankees. They've got really good top of the line starting pitchers. The Yankees have got Severino, Tanaka, and Paxton. Boston's got obviously Sale, Porcello. I mean, these guys. This division, in my opinion, is going to be down to these 2 teams.
Yeah.
Tampa's pretty good, but I think these 2 teams are kind of
head and shoulders
above the rest.
Yeah. Well, talking about the Rays, they were arguably the best team that didn't make the playoffs last year, 90-72 record. You pick up Tommy Pham, Avisail Garcia, Mike Zunino, but, I mean, and the losses aren't that big. You lose Carlos Gomez and Sergio Romo. I mean, the Rays are a team that obviously had the AL Cy Young winner in Blake Snell last year. And they're a team that, obviously, if you can compete in this division, you can compete against anybody in baseball right now.
They're kind of the stepchild.
Yeah, they are.
In the AL.
They are.
Yeah. That's kind of the best way that, I'm trying to see it. They've got a lot of talent, but I just don't know if they've made the moves this year to overtake Boston or the Yankees.
Yeah.
They're still going to be a pretty good team. They've got some pretty good pieces. Garcia was a big pickup.
Yeah,
he was a big stick. That's a pretty big loss for the White Sox. So keeping him kind of there, that's a really good stick. I'm just not sure with, Kiermaier's a really good defender. Meadows is really good. Pham's pretty good. I can see them, hovering around 80 to 85 wins.
85, yeah.
They'll be a good product, but I don't think they'll be really contending for a playoff spot this year.
Yeah, and honestly, there's nobody they could have picked up too. I mean, if you really look at it, to contend with Boston and New York. I mean, like you said, Coach, great team, really good team, but there's no way they can compete with those two top teams.
You don't have the salary to really compete with them.
Exactly.
And right now, I mean, we've talked about the Red Sox. They've got a good bullpen. The Yankees obviously have arguably the best bullpen. That might be the weak spot of the Rays is the bullpen. And as you talked about, the bullpen is so important now that if you are going to compete, it's not like the bullpen is the last thing you make the addition for. The bullpen is almost one of the first things you need to have in place. Because, I mean, those last, 12 to 15 outs, that's what decides the game as much as anything. Those are the outs where guys aren't just going to lay down.
Right.
Those are your at-bats where you're going to have guys that are going to grind out ABs, have 8 to 12 pitch at-bats, where you're going to work on a guy and you're going to see everything he has. And not only is that good for you, that's good for the guy behind you in the lineup as well. I mean, that just makes everybody a little bit more familiar.
I think that with the bullpen, the biggest thing about trying to have depth is getting that second time through the order. When these pitchers get through the lineup one time, guys have already seen them.
Yep.
Right.
So teams that have a pretty deep pen, they can bring guys in when the lineup's going to flip over.
Yep.
So guys haven't seen them yet. That's why now when we're in a generation where you need to have a deep pen, that's kind of why.
Yeah.
Is analytics shows we're in a day and age now where analytics is used by every single team. These guys don't want their pitchers being seen by hitters 2-3 times.
Right.
Yeah.
They'll pick up on tendencies. So I don't think that Tampa has the depth, bullpen depth, but we'll see.
Moving into the bottom half of the division, you've got the Blue Jays. They're a team that, it was only a couple years ago that they were arguably one of the best teams in the AL East. Obviously, Jose Bautista goes downhill. You've still got good pieces there. You've still got Marcus Stroman, a guy who's a top end of the rotation guy anywhere. You've got good pieces on the back end as well. You've got Justin Smoke. You've got Lourdes Gurriel up the middle. Kevin Pillar arguably is, again, like Kiermaier. He's one of those guys, you might not know his name, but he is one of the best defenders in baseball, I think, especially in that center field position. The Blue Jays, like we talked about, though, they've got guys coming up the pipe. You've got Vlad Jr. coming up. You've got Bo Bichette coming up. This is a team that in 2 or 3 years could really contend, but I don't see it this year.
Not right now.
They're planning for the future.
Yeah.
I think they're trying to position themselves in a way that the AL East is going to be up for grabs in 2 or 3 years tops. And they've got the young players like Vlad Jr. Had the pleasure of watching him this past spring. He came down here in Charlotte and played AAA, and guys, he's an absolute treat.
He's
he
fun
can
to watch.
flat out play.
Yeah.
He's fun to watch.
And if there's one knock on him, it's that he swings and misses, but the guy's got some serious juice.
Yeah.
And so he's just
he's
one,
cut from a
one
good cloth.
guy.
He's cut from good cloth.
So he's just one guy, that is going to be a big piece for them. So.
Yeah, I mean, moving now to the really the bottom dweller of the AL East. This is a team that is not going to be good for a while, if we're being quite honest. This is the Baltimore Orioles, coming off of a 47-115 season last year. You don't really pick up anybody. You lose Adam Jones. You're stuck with Chris Davis. I mean, where does it end with the Orioles? Like, where is the light at the end of the tunnel? How far away is it?
It's about as far away as the Charlotte Hornets.
Wow.
Really.
Wow.
And I compare that. I compare that. Because I don't think the Orioles know what direction they want to go in.
They don't. Yeah.
They're bottom
pieces.
dwellers.
Yeah.
They're bottom dwellers, but I don't think they really know what direction they want to go in. And when an organization's in that boat, either you tank and kind of you plan for that, or you get rid of guys, leave a bad taste in their mouth, and do it that way. And I just think they've gotten rid of some big pieces, and they have some contracts like Chris Davis that nobody wants.
Yeah, it's gross.
So when you have a team with big players getting paid a lot of money that aren't producing the way they used to, you're kind of stuck in limbo. And that's kind of what I think of Baltimore right now.
Now, would you guys say that's more of a upper management front office problem that they're going through the things that they're going through right now?
I mean, I think so. I mean,
Who
you can't.
else?
I
Who
mean,
else
yeah,
do
you
you
can't.
kinda-
You can't blame it on
Yeah.
Buck Showalter anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, like Buck Showalter is a guy who historically has proven he is really good at turning teams around. But at a certain point, like, he'll reach a ceiling. He reached his ceiling with the Orioles when he didn't use Zach Britton. That was their ceiling. That's when it ended, when he just, for whatever reason, kept Zach Britton in the bullpen. But now, I think that's what they're gonna have to go all in on a tank at this point. And like, I don't like being the guy that advocates for tanking it anywhere, but that's what you have to do here. I mean, you have to go full Astros. You have to lean into the tank, and if you get the right guys in the front office, if you find the right guys who can combine analytics and knowing people. And that's what the Astros did, I think.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to take a while for the Orioles to get better, but it's going to – not only is it going to take a lot of on-field changes, but it's going to take changes off the field, too, up in the front office.
Okay. Now, with the Orioles, I know we're talking about the Orioles a little bit, but what does their farm system look like?
Not good.
It's depleted.
Wow.
They're in a state where their fan base is going to have to be pretty patient.
Yeah.
Wow.
You're a good 6, 7, maybe 8 years away.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
I mean, they've got a young arm. Bundy's pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, you had Trey Mancini, who was a Rookie of the Year candidate a couple years ago.
Other than that, man, it's going to be tested. Yeah. So. Yeah.
All right, we'll move from the AL East to the NL East. We'll start with the reigning division champion Atlanta Braves. Finished last year with a 90-72 record. And obviously, as a Braves fan, thank God,
yes,
it finally turned around. It was a year ahead of schedule, but I mean,
which is awesome.
Which is great. I'm super happy that everything happened the way it did last year. Obviously, you want the playoffs to go a little bit better, but at least you kind of.
I was happy to be there.
You kind of get that little bit of a consolation in that Acuna Grand Slam.
Oh,
like you see. Obviously, everybody knows how good Ronald Acuna is going to be. Probably
he's already hitting them out in preseason this year.
Yeah, no, he's been but like that was that little bit of like a glimmer of, okay, yeah, obviously we knew this guy was good, but I mean, first AB at home in the playoffs and bases loaded, and you go, yeah,
that's incredible.
After a terrible strike call. You're able to like that, and that's the thing I think that people forget about that Grand Slam. Right before, I mean, it was not a great call. Obviously, Acuna dropped the bat, wasn't excited about it, but he was he's just able to turn it right back on and focus and go yard and put you up on a Dodgers team that eventually goes on to the World Series. I mean, the Braves. You pick up Josh Donaldson, a former MVP. You get Brian McCann on a little bit of. I mean, it's like a Kobe tour a little bit for Brian McCann. Yeah. But I mean, if I'm the Braves, I wanted them to do so much more because that was the shtick for a couple of years now. We're gonna move into SunTrust Park. We're gonna have these young guys come up, and then by the time all these young guys are up and playing good, then we're gonna have the money to spend. Yeah, obviously you give Donaldson a 1-year, $23 million contract. There's no such thing as a bad 1-year deal. I'm fine with that. But go spend that money you said you were going to go spend.
Exactly.
You're not going to save that money and be able to use it next year. That's not how that works. You need to, when you've got the ability to be aggressive, especially in a free agent market where you've got good arms, and that's what the Braves needed more than anything, either bullpen or starters, you needed arms. And they haven't really done it. Obviously, we talked about Kimbrel, you've got Dallas Keuchel still out there. But Fultonevich is hurt. Sean Newcomb is as up and down as anybody in Major League Baseball. Kevin Gausman was a great pickup last year. I'm not the biggest Julio Teheran fan. And then you've got prospects coming up. You've got Bryce Wilson. You've got Touki Toussaint. You've got Kyle Wright. You've got Ian Anderson on the back end of that. I mean, the Braves have so many arms, and they're holding on to them. I mean, like, we've seen teams have good farm systems with arms, but I feel like we've never seen them stick together like this. At some point, somebody gets traded for an asset, or somebody's dealt at the deadline to get a bat or something like that. The Braves have kept it up over and over. They've kept them together, and I feel like I've never seen a team do that like the way the Braves are doing right now.
So the Braves. It's funny because they've traditionally been a team that's been led by their pitching.
Yeah,
that's
what you're known for.
Yeah,
it's totally flipped around.
That's kind of the first thing there is not just Maddox and Glavine, but even after that, they've been known as a team that has legitimate starting pitching, and they thrive on that. They still do, but they're known more for their bats now. They have a lineup that. One of the big things is Acuna going to hit first or clean up? Because last year he hit first he wanted to hit first.
Yeah.
And he's been pretty vocal, Carson, this spring training about he's been in the cleanup spot during those games.
Okay.
And he's been pretty vocal. He wants to hit leadoff.
Yeah.
If he's hitting leadoff, he'll get more at bats. If he's sitting in the cleanup spot, there's going to be more runners on base.
Yeah. Right.
So that's going to be a big thing. Is where do the Braves hit him? How is their lineup going to look? I might go in Ciarte, Donaldson, Freeman, Acuna. That's a good route. Or they could flip it. Acuna go first and then. Just feed down, but the Braves are going to have a lot of options. But back to your point really quickly, I don't think they've made moves to bring in a lot of arms because of what they have in AAA.
Yeah,
I was going to say that. Maybe they
that
think
they don't need to.
Exactly. But I kind of agree with Carson's point also. If that money's there and it's not going to be there, why wouldn't you spend it and try and bring something in? Do something with it. Make the fans happy at least.
And part of that could be the fact that they're owned by Liberty Media Group. They're not owned by a person. So Liberty Media Group could see, the Braves could just be a line on a spreadsheet for them, for all we know.
Right.
Freddie Freeman could walk into a board of directors meeting or whatever for Liberty Media Group, and they wouldn't know him from Adam. It could be one of those things.
Their payroll is sitting at around $160 million.
Yeah.
Currently, and that's third in the division, so they don't even have a payroll that matches the Nationals or the Phillies. No. But I don't think that they're going to spend that money because I think they want to save that money and lock up guys like Acuna, Albies, guys that are young. I think they'll want to lock them up before they're due for a big contract, and then save that money and bring up these arms from AAA. Will it work? Okay. I don't know. We'll see.
I hope so.
We'll see.
Yeah, we hope so. Moving now, we could talk about the Braves for 2 more hours, but I don't think anybody else wants to listen to that besides me. Going to move to the Philadelphia Phillies now. Obviously, last season they contended for that NL East for a really long time until they had just a rough August and September. They finished below 500 at 80 and 82, but they obviously make some acquisitions. You get Bryce Harper, you get JT Realmuto, you get David Robertson, Andrew McCutchen, Gene Segura. And all you really lose is Asdrubal Cabrera and Wilson Ramos. I mean, this is a team that a lot of people are saying they're primed to not only win the NL East, but they could obviously contend for the World Series. You've got big bats like Harper, Rhys Hoskins, Odubel Herrera. You've got guys up and down this lineup, but I think the obvious hole is the starting rotation.
Arms.
Yeah,
that's what with this team is arms. Yeah. I mean, they don't have the arms right now to really do anything.
Very scary lineup, batting lineup.
Yeah, but I mean, that top end isn't bad. Your 1-2 is not bad. Aaron Nola and Jake Arrieta. Jake Arrieta might be on the backside, but Aaron Nola is a guy who flirted with that NL Cy Young for a really long time. I mean. And obviously, JT Realmuto, you didn't have to give up as much as I think a lot of people thought you were going to get him. You give up Sixto Sanchez and another catcher and I think one other prospect. But, I mean, the Braves were in on Realmuto for a really long time, and all I really ever remember hearing is they wanted at least Albies and another piece. And what the Phillies gave up was not Ozzie Albies and a piece. They gave up a lot less to get Realmuto, I feel like.
Yeah, I don't think the Braves should have made that move. And I'm glad that they didn't make that move. I'd rather them bring in Brian McCann for a year. The thing about Philly is I don't know how consistent Maikel Franco is going to be.
Yeah.
Their third baseman was a big-time top prospect, had a lot of pressure. The guy's hit, low 200s, low to mid 2s. He's got a lot of juice. He's got a lot of power. But, he's going to be a big piece. If he hits well, he can protect guys like Harper, McCutchen, Segura. We'll see how he plays. But if Franco goes cold, I think this lineup really might struggle because Bryce Harper is going to need some protection.
Yeah, yes.
As the old folks used to say, pressure bust pipes. And can you handle that pressure? From especially being a top prospect like that. He hasn't shown it yet, but like you said, Coach, this may be the year. But let's talk about the elephant in the room, Bryce Harper. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money for.
Would you have given it to him?
No, sir. No. I can't give you that, especially off the year that you came off of, and you had. We talked about this in a prior podcast that you had the 2015 year. Okay, fantastic, great year, but 330. What was it, 330 that they gave?
330, 13 years, no opt-outs, no trade clause.
Really?
You're locked in.
You're locked into this dude.
That will be a third of your life that you've spent in Philadelphia at that point. He's 26.
Yeah, and I just don't get it from both aspects. I don't get it from Harper's aspect. You're going to lock yourself into 13 years? Why?
Why do you not take a short deal and then bet on yourself to make more money?
Exactly, because for me, it's all about the bag. It's all about getting the bag. I know I can play, but I'm about getting that bag. Yeah. Because when that guy out there in L.A., when he re-ups in 2020, that's going to set the bar.
Yep. Yeah.
So why would you lock yourself into a 13-year deal? And on the Philly side, why would you lock yourself into a 13-year deal?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, and really, I mean, obviously Bryce Harper brings a bat and he's a personality. And he's a name and everything. But
oh, man.
I don't know if I would personally. I don't know if I would have given him that money just because I mean, he's not a bad defender, but I don't think he is a good enough defender along with that bat to earn that money. I think you got guys like Nolan Arenado. You talk about Mike Trout. You talk about. I would have given that money to Manny Machado before I gave it to Bryce Harper.
Exactly.
Because he obviously, I mean, you're comparing, you know, a left side of the infield guy to a corner outfielder is two very different places on a baseball field. But Manny Machado, he can play third and short. He's not going to because of Fernando Tatis. But I mean, he's a guy who I want to think has 3 or 4 Gold Gloves. He's got a Silver Slugger. Bryce Harper does not have any Gold Gloves. I mean, he's got 1 or 2 Silver Sluggers. He's obviously got the MVP. He's got that 2015 year where he was, you know, the best player in baseball. As much as I don't like him, like he obviously was the best player in baseball that year. But and maybe part of it is he sees the universal DH coming, so he's not going to have to worry about playing in the outfield that long. But on top of all that, what's going to happen when it's May 4th? He's hitting possibly 226 with 2 home runs because he's had a cold start, and he's getting booed by Philly fans because that's what they do.
Yep.
It's the hardest fan base for sports, period, in any place in America. I just want to see what that does to Bryce Harper. As much as anything.
Yeah, because
it'd be interesting to see.
Yeah,
because he's awful sensitive. He's really sensitive.
He's had multiple incidences where you've seen him sort of lose his cool over things that you probably shouldn't have. You probably should have kept it calm and collected. Bryce Harper is a guy who's, I mean, it's one of those.
They might test him.
He's definitely going to get tested.
That's,
by that fan base.
That was the thing.
Yeah.
13 years in Philly. Where
he must love Philadelphia,
I guess, or he loves that short porch.
Got to think the cheese
It's one of the two.
But he hits well there. That's the thing, and I'm sure that had a lot to do with it. He hits well there. So, but that's pretty tough.
So I'm gonna kind of take a different route.
Okay.
I would have paid him.
Yeah.
I didn't love the deal. I
don't think anybody really does.
I think that I think that a 10-year deal is, you know, anything that's 10 or plus. There's no way that player's going to finish out that contract there. In the history of the game,
it hasn't happened.
The guys will get traded. My thing is he's got a no trade clause, so he'll have to approve where he goes.
Yeah.
I think players change their mind, and I think that in a couple of years, if he is getting booed from underperformance, I think he'll very gladly open his mind to being traded to certain teams. I think for Philly, while it may sting at any point, I mean, he's, 26? So in 4 or 5 years, even years later, he'll still be in his prime for a baseball player.
Yeah.
I think somebody will trade the house for him. Yeah. So, I don't love the length of it, but I'd rather have him on my team than face him. And that might just be the coach here. I'm thinking like a coach. I'd rather pencil his name in my lineup than have to know that I've got to pitch against him.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
That's a good take.
That's a really good take.
That's a lot of money. That's a lot of years to be tied down to one single player.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
All right, moving into a little bit northern now. The New York Mets coming off a sub 500, 77 and 85 year. Obviously, they make the big trade for Robinson Cano and Sugar Diaz. You pick up Juris Familia, and you don't really lose that much. You lose Devin Mesoraco and Austin Jackson, but the Mets are one of those teams. It's almost like the Browns. You pick up names and they're good names, but until you put it together, I don't know how much I can believe it. I want to see that product work. And obviously, Robinson Cano, I don't know how viable he is. He's going to be over at second. Maybe he can play a little bit of first. He's obviously probably going to DH whenever they play AL teams. I mean, what do you guys make of the Mets? You've got Conforto, you've got Brandon Nimmo, you've got, Jed Lowry's going to come around. You've got Todd Frazier. They pick up Wilson Ramos, steal him from the Nationals, and obviously you've got one of the best starting lineups, and probably arguably, and not even that much of an argument, the best starting 4 in baseball with DeGrom, Syndergaard, Wheeler, and Matz. I mean, what do you guys make of the Mets?
I think they'll be 4th in the NL East, but It'll be, the NL East. If it was a different division,
they could be the best fourth-place team in baseball.
I mean, they'll be pushing for, if they don't finish at 500, they'll be right there. Yeah. And saying that for a team who, I'm picking fourth, that shows how difficult this division is. Yeah. Their outfield is young and loaded. Conforto, Lagares is a stud, and Nemo's had a pretty good year this past year. I think that they're going to be pretty special. I just don't think they have enough this year to push for it. But Cano, you never know. The guy is Hall of Famer. Even though he failed that drug test last year, I still think that he'll be a Hall of Fame player.
Yeah, I mean he's one of the best offensive basemen ever. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So sweetest swing in the game.
Yeah.
They're the Mets.
Yeah.
Until you prove it to me, you're still until you prove it to me, you're still the Mets.
Yeah.
And I mean, you have a proven track record of being a dumpster fire. So I mean, until you prove it to, like you said, Carson, you can bring all the names you want to into that clubhouse.
Yeah.
But if they don't gel, if they don't fit together, you're back to where you are. I mean, where you started. So they're the Mets.
Moving to the cellar dweller of the NL East, it's the Miami Marlins. I mean, you've got 3 or 4 names. I mean, you've got Starlin Castro, who can still hit. Neil Walker's on that club. Martin Prado's on that club. Your starting pitching is Jose Urena. I mean, I think the entire state of Georgia hates him after he intentionally hit Ronald Acuna just because he's good last year. You got Dan Straley. You got Ye-Win Shin. I mean, is there any hope for the Marlins? I mean, I think the Marlins are almost – they're like the Orioles, but they're not as far away as the Orioles are, I feel like. I mean, Derek Jeter, I guess he's got a vision. I mean, as many moves as he's made, he better have a vision. Yeah. But, I mean, what do you guys make of the Marlins?
I think that a couple years ago they were an organization that I would have put top 5 up-and-coming organizations. Mm-hmm. With the passing of Jose Fernandez –
that did something.
A couple of years back, I think that definitely did something to that team. Mm-hmm. He was the best pitcher in baseball, especially when he pitched at home. They never lost. And that lineup was young and talented, and none of those guys are there anymore. So they've gone, in a direction where they're retooling, they're revamping. I think between them and Baltimore, one of those 2 teams will probably be picking first in the draft.
That's probably 1, 2, yeah.
So
one way or the other.
It's really sad. I mean, it's sad because, Coach, like you said, a couple years back, they were on their way, and then all of a sudden,
must-see TV at home.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden,
you trade away an MVP, you trade away a home run king, and you trade away another really good outfielder in Marcell Ozuna.
Yeah, and for me, I'm looking at ownership, and I'm looking at front office people, and I'm like, what are you doing? Do you not? Are you just in it for the money grab to get the ends, or are you trying to put a competitive product on the field?
Yeah.
Because you have a population down there in Miami that loves baseball. They love baseball in Miami, and you're putting on the field a product that is severely disrespectful to that fan base.
Yeah.
They deserve. Yeah, you have a brand new stadium. They deserve more as a fan base.
I mean, you tore down the Orange Bowl to put that park there.
Exactly.
And Orange Bowl is the site of some of the best college football games ever. Super Bowls. I mean, that was a historic place.
I just see it as a sad situation, much like Baltimore. You have a fantastic fan base, and you're just shortchanging them.
Yeah.
I mean, these people pay good money to come to, well, not anymore, but those people used to pay good money to come see your guys play, and it's just sad.
No, and if you want to know just how good the Marlins are going to be this season, look no further than Neil Walker's going to be playing first base. So he's a second baseman for his whole life, and he's their starting first baseman. So probably not going to drive in that many runs. They'll be at the bottom.
Yeah, I think you're right. Let's now move from the NL East to the AL Central. The Indians, we'll start with them. They were your division champs last year, a couple years removed from a World Series. The Indians were a team that threatened to move Trevor Bauer and Corey Kluber at one point, but now they're going to stick with them. the Indians are a team that had Josh Donaldson, let him go. They've got Carlos Santana back. This is a team, I can't figure them out. I don't know whether they want to retool or they're going to run with their guys. I mean, what are you guys making of the Indians?
I think they've got some question marks.
Yeah.
You look at Lindor, he's fantastic.
Yeah.
My biggest question mark with them is what kind of year is Kitten is going to have.
Because he can play so many places.
That guy's capable of hitting, 300 plus. He's a solid hitter. But he dropped off last season tremendously.
Yeah.
And, almost where he was a liability in the lineup. His average dropped about 100 points. So that's going to be a big question mark for them is how does he play? Because he's a pretty important piece for him.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, you've got other arms. You've got Cookie Carrasco. You lose Andrew Miller. I mean, the bullpen, again, like we've talked about, I mean, you've got Brad Hand, who is a solid, bullpen arm. But outside of that, again, that's a thing that would worry me is the lack of bullpen depth if I'm the Indians.
Arms.
Yeah.
Arms.
Arms.
We go back to it.
Yeah.
It's tough to win if you don't have arms. They're loaded in the rotation.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're deep in rotation.
But unless their starters go into the deep into the 7th or the 8th, it's going to be, hey, who are we going to bring in here to keep this lead?
Yeah.
Right? So
yeah. I mean, you still got a solid manager in Tito, Terry Francona, but I think with the Indians, it could be just additions that they make mid-season or trades that they make, and that's really going to show their hand whether or not they're really committed to winning this season or they think they're going to retool. Staying in the AL Central, a team that a lot of people are picking for the dark horse for that division is the Minnesota Twins. You've got Paul Molitor, a really good manager. You've added really versatile guys in Jonathan Scope and Marwin Gonzalez. You've still got Byron Buxton out in the outfield, who is a great defensive center fielder. You've got, I want to think he's definitely a top 5 prospect in Royce Lewis. It's Rocco Baldelli. You're right. I don't know why I thought it was Paul Molitor. What are you guys making of the Twins? They're a team that, like I say, it's one of those trendy dark horse. If I'm not picking the Indians, I'm going to pick the Twins this year. What are you guys making of Minnesota?
Go ahead, Coach. Go ahead.
A lot of question marks, and my questions kind of stem down from the front office. I don't know how committed they've been to giving their own current players, a chance. I mean, they've had guys like, Buxton, who has all the potential in the world.
Yeah.
Why is he still not there? You know what I mean? I don't know how much they're, developing their players. I don't know how much their guys love playing for them. But they brought in some big pieces. Their third baseman, Sano, has been a guy that I've been real high on for a long time. And I'm really waiting on him to have that season where he's 310, 315, 40 tanks, 100 ribbies.
Yeah.
That's the kind of year that he can have. Will he? He's got to stay healthy.
Yeah, because he has a lot of juice in that bat, boy. I'm trying to tell you. He really does.
And you've got a guy that maybe could show him a thing or two. You add Nelson Cruz. I mean, the Twins, they're going to have pop, but they're also playing just a national park of a baseball field. Mm-hmm. I mean, Target Field is massive.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you're going to need guys like Nelson Cruz who can hit it 500 feet. I mean, you've got decent arms. You got Michael Pineda, who's coming off of Tommy John surgery, I believe. You got Jose Barrios. And after that, I mean, Odorizzi, he's decent, but I don't know. I don't know if their rotation is up to snuff to really make that push because, I mean, obviously, we like to talk about how important bullpen arms are, but you still need a guy who's going to get you at least 5 or 6 innings to start a ball game, maybe only give up 3 to 4 runs, and that's all you can really ask for out of a starter, I feel like.
Yeah, Minnesota, you got a couple guys. For me, their best players, you got Sano, Buxton, Crone, obviously, if he's on, he's playing pretty well. Yeah. Nelson Cruz is a little bit, older of a guy, but he's a good hitter. Other than that, I think they're pretty average. Yeah. So,
moving to the bottom 2 teams in the AL Central, we'll run through them real quick. The Chicago White Sox and the Kansas City Royals. The White Sox coming off a 62-100 season. The Royals 58-104. The White Sox were obviously, they thought they were in contention for both Manny Machado and Bryce Harper. They signed half of Manny Machado's family to try and lure him there. But, I mean, the White Sox, to me, it seems like they've just underperformed consistently. You had Yohan Moncada, who was supposed to be, the next big thing. That's who you trade Chris Sale for. Tim Anderson is obviously, I think, a really good defensive shortstop. Jose Abreu, a big bat. Mm-hmm. I don't know. They need a lot of something. You've got Rodon at the top of the rotation, but they're just missing. And I can't even necessarily pin it on one thing, but they need a lot of something. They need. I think more than anything, it's got to be starting pitching.
Yeah, they don't really have. They're not really good at anything.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the best way to put it.
And that's never good.
They're not really good at anything. On a really good team right now, since he's young, I think that Rodon's probably your 3.
Yeah.
I'm talking like if he was on Boston, he'd be their 4.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe 5.
New York. Yeah. He'd be their 3, 4, 5. Mm-hmm. He's their top of the line guy. Mm-hmm. He's been really highly touted since he was in college at NC State. Yeah. Local kid. He throws really hard, Carson.
Yeah, he's got a good slider.
He's got a banger of a slider. Yeah. But can he be a number 1? Mm-hmm. That's what they're hoping for.
Well, you've got Kopech who was in Charlotte, who you talk about a really good live fastball. He's got that. You've got Eloy Jimenez, who is I think a top 5, top 7 prospect who's been down in Charlotte, and that is a man-child. Like Eloy Jimenez can put the ball out of any ballpark, no matter where. You can put him in Yellowstone, he's going to hit it out of that. Like it doesn't matter. He's one of those guys. But like you said, there's nothing that they can hang their hat on. We're really good at this, and I feel like even bad teams need that. You need something that you can lean on to maybe try and just win you games, even if you don't necessarily. If you're like the White Sox, you're not going to compete that much, but you want to give fans something.
You want to have an identity.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And when you look at any teams, especially teams that are successful, whether you like their identity or not, whether you like their style of play, whether you like the way their manager manages, they've got one.
Yep.
And when I look at the White Sox, Abreu's good, Moncada's good, but I don't really know what kind of team they are. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they're a team that runs, they're a team that hits, a team that plays good defense. I think they're just
They're middle of the road at everything.
They're good. They're okay to pretty good at everything.
They're not good at anything. They're not bad at anything.
Right.
They're so middle of the road that they might be trapped there.
And then as a player, I never played baseball, but you guys did. How does that feel going into a clubhouse where you don't have an identity?
The players don't believe that.
Yeah.
The players don't believe that they don't have an identity because they have self-confidence.
Uh-huh.
Even if we're sitting here saying, they're not really good at anything, they're still getting paid to play.
Right.
Yeah.
They're probably, comparatively speaking, they're fast, quick, they can run, they're powerful. Mm-hmm. But the teams that they're playing against, I just think it's just more clear kind of what their strengths are.
Okay.
And so these players still have the belief that they can do things.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I just don't think that they are sitting here being as critical as I might be right now towards them, kind of looking at it as an outsider. Mm-hmm. Because if they did, they would certainly finish at the bottom of the pack.
Right.
But,
that's why
their locker room, I guarantee you, their locker room is full of, belief, confidence. Mm-hmm. And if it's not, we'll see here pretty soon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Their record will definitely reflect it.
Okay.
Real quick, just talk about the Royals. Obviously, you lose Salvador Perez for the year off of Tommy John surgery. And the Royals are kind of like the White Sox in that they don't really have that much of an identity. You've got pieces. Alex Gordon is still there. They add Billy Hamilton. Jorge Soler, I feel like that was a guy that he was one of those up-and-coming Cubs a couple years ago, and now there's no traction. He doesn't have a footing really with the Royals. You've got Hunter Dozier. You've got Whit Merrifield. What do you make of them? I feel like it's really, and I hate to say it this way. Your 3 worst teams in baseball are probably going to be the Orioles, the Marlins, and the Royals most likely. That's just they're teams that like you said, they don't have an identity. They don't have anything that they can hang their hat on, really.
They've lost a lot of pieces over the last couple of years.
The team that won the World Series not that long ago.
Exactly.
Yeah, they lost a lot of pieces. I was actually reading an article a couple days ago. Someone was saying that they might lose 100 games.
Yeah, I mean, they lost 104 last year.
But they might lead the league in stolen bases.
Yeah,
with Billy up there.
They can flat out fly. Bonifacio can run as a right fielder.
Yeah.
Just saying, Billy, Hamilton can steal 100 on his own.
No problem.
So I don't know if that's going to translate to wins, but when they lose pieces like they've lost, I mean, it's hard to. This roster is not the same roster that won the World Series.
Not even close.
Back then, Duffy was coming out of the bullpen, and now he's their number one.
He's your opening day guy.
So all around the diamond, they're taking a chance on guys like Soler. They're taking a chance on a guy like that because he didn't really pan out in Chicago. I mean, that guy had all the hype in the world, so much power, but for some reason, either it wasn't the right fit, the organization, there was something off there. Yeah. So maybe a change of scenery for the guy might be what he needs.
Yeah.
Let's move from the AL Central to the NL Central. The Brewers coming off a 96-win division winning season last year. You've obviously got your reigning NL MVP in Christian Yelich. You signed Yasmani Grandal. Mike Moustakas is moving to second base. I mean, he's always been a corner infield guy. You've got pieces. Obviously, Lorenzo Cain is still one of the best defensive center fielders in baseball. Ryan Braun is still out there. They've sort of got like a no-name rotation, sort of like the Dolphins would have, the no-name defense. They've got a no-name rotation, but it's still good. I mean, you've got Chacin, who's solid, but again, it could be the bullpen that lets them down. What are you guys making of the Brewers?
I think that, first off, with your point with Moustakas going to second base, in high school he played short. I mean, he's got legitimate hands.
Yeah,
I know he's not 18 anymore, but the biggest thing from going from third to second is going to be feet. Can he get his feet for double plays? Having the right footwork there. I think that's going to be a transition that's going to be pretty seamless. Yelich had a phenomenal year last year. Let's see if he can replicate that. But you're pretty much right, man. They're starting pitching. You don't look at it and you're not wowed by it.
Yeah, but it still works.
It's effective.
But you trust those guys still.
Yeah.
They're not big name guys that you might really won't want to be excited about throwing, but when they're out there, you don't feel bad about them.
Yeah. I mean, you've got Hader on the back end in the bullpen. But, I mean, and the bullpen is similar. I mean, it might not – it's obviously – I don't think it's as good as your rotation. But, again, it's sort of like you've got Hader, and that was your he was an all-star last year. But after that, it's a lot of no-names. It's a lot of guys that unless you are a diehard Brewers fan, you're not going to know that much about them.
Right.
They're guys that aren't going to stick out. They're not faces that you're going to know. But they're a team that I think, I think they probably should repeat as division champions. But I think they're a team that at some point they're going to have to make a move and get a little bit more bullpen help.
Yeah, I mean, I think if they're going to beat the Cubs, the Cardinals also have some pretty good pieces coming in.
Yeah.
They're really going to have to pitch it well.
Yeah.
I mean, Travis Shaw is going to be able to hit at third. Braun's going to be Braun in left field. Kane center. I mean, they're going to have some good sticks. But are they going to have, when their starting pitchers come out, are they going to be able to maintain and post the zeros with the bullpen when they're facing the Cubs and the Cardinals? Because those two teams are going to be ready to play.
Yeah.
I got a quick question. How good can Christian Yelich be?
He was the MVP.
But
he's a guy who.
Oh man.
I mean, if he wanted to run, I feel like he could have a 30-20 season. If he wanted to just be a power hitter, he could probably hit 40 home runs. He's a guy who can win a Gold Glove in a corner outfield spot. I mean, obviously they didn't really even have to give up that much to go get him from Miami when you think about it. And, I mean, he's a guy I think he's in a perfect spot for him. He's in Milwaukee. He's in a place where when you're good, you're seen. And, obviously, right now the team is really good, and there's not that much pressure on you. You're not in a giant market where there's guys following your every step. I mean, Christian Yelich is a guy who, you could see him repeat as MVP. That would not surprise me one bit.
Yeah.
Let's move to those Chicago Cubs. They were just a game back of the Brewers last year. They had a rough ending to the year last year. lose a play-in game to determine the wild card. Then they lose the wild card at home to the Rockies. The Cubs were a team that Pacoda picked to finish last in this division. That Pacoda is basically they project wins and losses records based on a lot of different things. But they projected them to finish last in the NL Central this year. The Cubs, they obviously break the curse a couple years ago, but now it doesn't feel like the same team. There was when they won the World Series. This is going to be a new dynasty. We've got all these young kids. We've got Rizzo. We've got Bryant. We got Russell. We've got all
Soler.
Yeah, you had Soler at that point. But I don't know. I mean, and the Cubs, you've still got Quintana, who hasn't really pitched that much since you traded for him. You've got Yu Darvish. You've got Cole Hamels. You've got Kyle Hendricks. I mean, the Cubs are a team that should put it together, and they should be a top 5, top 7 team in baseball. But last year, they weren't that for whatever reason.
They underachieved. One of the guys that I'm thinking of is Chris Bryant. He's got all the potential in the world.
He's an MVP.
No doubt.
He's an MVP player that hit like a middle of the road 7-hole hitter.
Yeah.
And so when your best player, potentially your best player, has that kind of a year, I mean, it's going to take 3 or 4 guys having career years
to make up for that.
Make up, and that's a lot to ask for a guy. You can only hit 9 guys in the lineup, so that's asking half of your lineup to have career years.
Yeah, to play as best.
So I don't think that Chris Bryant is going to have that bad of a year. I think pitchers, they realize he had some holes in his swing, but I think he's way too good of a player. I think he's fixed that. I think he's going to have a really, really good season.
I mean, that whole infield, you've got Baez, you've got Zobrist, and then in the outfield, you've got depth too. You've got Schwarber, you've got Ian Happ, you've got Zobrist can play out in the outfield too. You've got Jason Hayward, who still is on that mega deal. You've got Almora Jr. that can play center field as well. The Cubs are one of those teams, they've got arguably the best depth in Major League Baseball when you sit down and think about it. But they're a team last year, like we talked about, that Chris Bryant has a arguably his worst year as a professional baseball player, and that drags down that whole team. Wilson Contreras, one of the best catchers in baseball, he's coming around. Where do you think the ceiling for the Cubs is this year? I think they're one of those teams that can have a really high ceiling, but they can also have a really low floor.
And that's not really a good spot to be, where you don't know who's coming to the park. It's so big. To me, it reminds me of when Dirk Nowitzki won the championship last year for them. Dirk was like, okay, my Dallas Mavericks won the championship. I'm done. I'm good. And it's like Chicago was like, we got ours. We done.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
We good. At least that's how they played last year.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we got ours, so we done.
No
sense of urgency.
Yes,
there was not a sense of urgency with that team.
Yeah.
So
that's a shame because their window, they've gotten rid of some of their young players to go for it right now. I'm looking here at their rotation: Lester, Cole Hamels, Yu Darvish. Quintana's a big ad, but they're not getting younger. Their starting pitching is not getting younger. So I think
they've got a lot of
money
money
right now.
They got a lot of money locked up between Hamels and Darvish, and those are 2 guys, especially Yu Darvish. I feel like that. Obviously, he had a down year last year, but he's gonna have to be better than a number 3.
Yep.
He's gonna have to be a 1 or 2 type guy. But you've got one like you mentioned. You've got John Lester, a guy who's seen it all. Cole Hamels, who has seen just about everything.
And he's 300 years old. So, when you're at the top of your rotation, which they're going to bring leadership and stuff like that, but when you're at the top of your rotation is that old, what do you do?
Not everybody's Justin Verlander.
Exactly.
And
yeah. So, that's a big question to me, which I'm sure they're going to be, of course, quality pitchers, of course, but that's a lot of age. What are you bringing up for the future? What are you bringing behind these guys?
When they made that move to bring in Quintana, I think they realized that they needed another guy. I don't know if they see, and when you trade that gets back to you is when you trade one of your best young players, because now he's the White Sox top prospect. He's the guy, and Chicago had him, and they got rid of him for a pitcher. So if Lester, Hamels, and Darvish pitch the way that they're capable of, they're probably going to be a pretty good team. If Chris Bryant hits the way that he's capable of, Baez has, that's another guy. if Baez has a year like he had last year, watch out. If he is a big-time swing and miss guy and hits 240 again, it's going to be tough.
Yeah. Coach, what you said this in that little statement multiple times. If. You really don't want to go into a season with that many ifs.
Right. It's a lot of question marks.
Yeah.
It's a lot of question marks with Chicago. There's a lot of potential, but it's more, will they do it? Mm-hmm. Can they do it? Mm-hmm. You're not sure if they'll do it.
All right.
So
moving to what I consider the San Antonio Spurs of Major League Baseball, the St. Louis Cardinals.
Oh my gosh.
88-74 last year. They're a team that they never really go away.
Mm-mm.
I mean, they're always solid year in, year out. You've got Dexter Fowler, you've got Bader, you've got Ozuna in the outfield, Colton Wong, Jed Jorko, good options at second base, Paul DeYoung, Matt Carpenter, and you add Paul Goldschmidt. Goldschmidt is arguably an MVP guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's, he's a five-tool player, a legitimate five-tool player, and there's maybe 10 of those guys in all of baseball. You've got, you still got that. I mean, that rotation. Michael Walker really, after having that great postseason, he just hasn't been that guy. Not to say that he's been bad, but he hasn't been as amazing as he was, a couple years ago in that run. You still got Adam Wainwright. Yachty is still back there, but it's one of those teams. It's the Cardinals. They could finish first. They could finish fifth. I feel like.
Yep. They that Goldschmidt move is a big move.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm kind of looking here at the roster, and I see a lot of guys that I believe are gonna. They've been there. They know what they're doing. They're experienced. I think when the season's starting to wrap up and they're on the home stretch, I think the Cardinals are going to be there.
Yeah.
In the division. I'd be really surprised if the Cardinals aren't contending for the division in the last 2 or 3 weeks of the season.
Bringing up after the Cardinals, you've got the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Pirates, a team that, it seems like they didn't know what they wanted to do last year. You trade for Chris Archer, but at the same time you're giving guys away. Pittsburgh was in that really long drought. What do you make of them, just real quick, and then we'll run through the AL and NL West.
The Pirates, I think they're going to be at the bottom. I think they've gotten rid of everybody. I love Marte, love Polanco, but I don't think they're going to be contending for it this year. Yeah. Good young pitchers, but I think they're planning for the future.
Yeah. Real quick, Anthony, talk about your Reds real quick.
They're going to win the division. No, I'm just playing. I really like my Reds this year. I've been watching them this spring training, and they haven't really looked that good. But it's just
it'll be entertaining.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's just the entertainment factor. You have Puig over there and Wright. They're going to get some extra butts in the seats.
Yeah.
So it'll be really interesting to see what they do. They're going to be at the bottom of the division, but they're going to be a fun watch if anything else. Yeah.
Moving into the AL West, you've got the Houston Astros. They were a 100-win team last year. You've got Carlos Correa. You've got Jose Altuve. You've got George Springer. You've got Alex Bregman. Again, this is arguably the most talented team in baseball. You've got Garrett Cole on the mound. You've got Justin Verlander. You've got names all up and down this roster, and they produce.
Absolutely loaded. Absolutely loaded.
It's a good team.
The Astros are probably going to win it. It's a question who's going to finish in second place.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm waiting on the Angels to fulfill that potential.
Yeah, no, they're due. They're 100%. Due as much as anybody. Yeah, they were sub 500 last year, 80 and 82. You've obviously got the best player in baseball and Mike Trout on your team if you're the Angels. It's just about surrounding him. Albert Pujols can't run anymore. He can't. Unless he puts it over the fence.
Giraffe. That's what we call him. He's a giraffe.
Unless he hits a home run, he is immediately a liability on the base pass. He can't play first base anymore. And you've got the A's who are there. You got the Mariners, again, a team that can't make up their mind. The Rangers are the Rangers, after going to the World Series back-to-back seasons. Now they've fallen off. Just talk about the AL West real quick.
I think it's Houston. I think it's Los Angeles. And then I think it's going to be Texas, then Anaheim and Seattle. Or Oakland and Seattle.
Yeah. Moving into the NL West real quick, and then we'll wrap things up. Got the Dodgers, Rockies, Diamondbacks, Giants, and Padres. Obviously, the Dodgers, the favorites. The Rockies still have Nolan Arenado and Trevor Story. They've got good pitching now. Pretty good pitching. For Colorado standards.
Yeah.
Diamondbacks, they still got Zach Greinke. They signed Adam Jones. The Giants, another team that just can't seem to figure themselves out. You've still got names like Evan Longoria, Hunter Pence is gone. And then the Padres, they pick up Manny Machado. I mean, the NL West could be as volatile of a division as there is in baseball, I think, this year.
I'd probably pick the Dodgers, the Rockies, then the Padres, and then Arizona and San Francisco.
Ooh, picking the Padres to that's a big leap. Yeah. I mean, they were a team 66 and 96 last year. Real quick, want to go over all of us just pick our division winners real quick. Pete, we'll start on your end. Who you got for the AL East?
Boston.
Caleb?
Boston.
Boston.
I'll go with Boston too. Make it a clean sweep. For the NL East, who you got, Pete?
We're gonna go Braves.
All right.
I would think, yeah.
I can't say not. I can't go against the Braves, so Braves.
I want to pick Atlanta. I said I was going to, but I'm going to go with Washington.
Okay.
With the Braves.
Honestly, I think
the rotation.
I think Washington has a lot of talent on that club. They've got a good rotation. I think the Braves will finish second and pick up a wild card spot. Who you guys got in the AL Central?
Ooh-wee.
I'm going to go with Cleveland.
Cleveland?
Yeah.
Indians.
Kept the gang together a little bit.
Yeah, Cleveland's good.
Yeah, I won't argue that.
I'm going to go Twins. I think they're a team that if they hit that ceiling, they can win the division. I don't know if they go deep into the playoffs, but they've got a good ceiling. Who you guys got in the NL Central?
Pete, go ahead.
Can't say the Reds.
I know, right?
You know what?
I'm going to say I like the Cardinals, man.
Right.
I like the Cardinals, man.
That Goldschmidt.
I'm telling you, man.
Didn't they add an arm too?
I want to think that they might have.
Andrew Miller or something?
Andrew Miller did go to the Cardinals.
Man, I'm telling you.
Cardinals.
Yeah, I was going to pick the Cubs, but I think that Mike Schilt's going to do too good of a job with the Cardinals. I'm going to go St. Louis.
I'm going to go with the Brewers. I think they've still got the talent there. They've got the ability to really play with anybody. Go to the AL West now.
Houston.
Yeah.
Astros all day, every day, man. That's the easiest pick.
Unless Caleb has something that we have no idea where it's coming from. I'm going to go all Houston.
I think I'll go with the Pack on this one.
Yeah, I'm going to go Houston. And then in the NL West, who you got, Pete?
I'm going to stay with the Dodgers. I'm
going to go with the Colorado Rockies.
I
think they're going to have a phenomenal year.
I'll say Dodgers.
I'm going to go Rockies. I think Arenado can carry that team, and if it's going to happen, I think you're getting into his prime right now. All right, pick your World Series matchup, Pete. Go.
Astros, Red Sox.
Who you got as a winner?
I'm
sorry.
I'm sorry. We're gonna go. Oh gosh, between Houston and Boston. Let's go. I'm gonna go Astros. This Astros and Cardinals.
All right, who you got in how many games?
Astros in 6.
All right. Caleb, who you got?
Oh, goodness. I'll throw my Braves in there because I'd feel bad after the show if I didn't.
All right. All right. I like the optimism.
Can I say Boston?
You can.
And the Braves?
You can say whatever you want, Caleb. How many games and who's winning?
Oh, my goodness. Again, if I win against my Braves, I'd feel bad. So,
all right.
Let's say it's a dogfight all the way. Braves on top.
All right, Braves in 7. Cheeto, who you got?
Braves are going to get in with the wild card. They're going to lose to Houston in the World Series in 6 games.
Ooh, okay. Oh man. All right. Well, I'm gonna go Houston and LA, and I think LA loses again. They didn't. If they would have picked up Harper, I think that might have been the piece they needed, but. They don't have him, so I think that they just need something to put him over the top. And maybe it was Harper, maybe it's an arm, maybe they make a deal in the middle of the season. Who knows?
Yeah.
But we're gonna wrap things up here on this live edition of No Cheering in the Press Box for myself, Carson Dockery, Charles Bradley, Caleb Stallcup, and Pete Hunt. We'll see you next time.
Peace.
Yeet.
There you go.
All right.
Dang. The Braves, huh?
Braves, man.